Alright, g'day guys and welcome back today to another Obsidian video. Today I've been playing with Obsidian Leaflet, trying to figure out probably the best way to configure my maps so that I can basically get the zoom functionality working and enable the ability to actually use the measurement functionality. So if you've got a map that's got a scale, for example, you can actually set it up so that you can use the measure distance tool and align it to that scale, which can be a pretty cool function to have within your maps. So let's jump over and have a look. Alright, so in front of me you can see I've got Demo Vault 2 open. You can see I've got a map of Faerun, Forgotten Realms here. This is one of the maps that Wizards of the Coast put out for free at some point. A fantastic map, one of the ones that Mike Schley has made, so always love his work. Now, this is a large map. So before you do anything with any map, I recommend you optimize it, because basically what happens is once you start setting up a map, you add pins to it, right? And those pins are associated with longitude and latitude representations, for effectively like they're points on a map. And when you change or optimize an image, you actually change the scale and size of that image usually. And what that means is, if you were to create a map today and put 1,000 hours into it, and then get to the end of that 1,000 hours and realize, hey, this isn't working very well, I need to optimize this map to be more efficient, you're going to optimize it and you're going to have to rejiggle your pins. So it's most certainly not something you want to do. You want to get your image optimization done at the onset. So how do I do that? What I do is I use a program called Pinger. So you can see the address up here at css-ig.net/pinger. There is a version called Pingo, which is what a lot of us used to use. That's just a command prompt. The difference is this one has a Windows graphical user interface, so it's a lot easier. And as you can see, you literally just drag your images in and click optimize, and then that will basically optimize the image. And you can see here that it shrinks it. It makes it so it works more efficiently, but it tries to retain the detail of the image. So that's what I'm currently using. Here it is. So in this case here, you would literally just drag the image in. So, if I've got my asset file, I bring in my Sword Coast map, I drop it, it runs, well, I click optimize and it'll run on that now. There you go, you can see it's optimized that image. It's gone from, it's about 73 meg down to 42 meg. Alright, so that's nice. There we go, it's been optimized. Now we can come in here and just basically, well, I think you can actually come in here and zoom in, just make sure you haven't lost your detail, because depending on where you want to go, you don't want to go too far. But yeah, that's an optimized image. It's obviously it's very easy for us to use, and we can now drag that into Obsidian and off we go. So, whoop. Alright, so let's just have a look. We've got still nice, it's still working. You've still got enough detail to obviously get in and see what's going on. Keeping in mind that I just optimized the image that this is actually already linked to, because it's just pointing to the file in the folder. Alright, so what we want to do is we now want to make a Obsidian Leaflet map out of this. Alright, so we're going to come in here. Now I've got this in a template. Alright, so I'm going to press Alt-T and come up here and type map and insert my map leaflet. My template just contains this text, which means that basically every time I do this, this is where it comes from. But what I'm going to do is I've been playing around, basically learning different ways to configure this. So, the screen's just having a heart attack because I just tried to move things around. Here is what I've managed to get working outside of this template. Alright, so if we grab this PNG here, we'll replace this one here with it. Alright, we'll get rid of that for now. Actually, I'm going to leave that there for now because you will want to see it. I'm going to remove the exclamation mark so I've got a link to it. And you'll see why in a minute. Alright, so I've brought in my leaflet. I've basically, it's pre-configured, right, because I've already been doing this, learning how to do this myself, but we're going to walk you through step by step how I did this. and then we'll walk you through step by step some of these settings. So my map is fairly large, so I've set a height of 900 pixels. That's something that I've just kind of picked based on like just going backwards and forth with this image. You can see it takes up most of the screen space from top to bottom. That's what I was aiming for. You can set that to whatever you like. Width, 95% is what I'm using with this one because it's a big map. All right, I actually like 85% for some of the smaller images, but what this is all about is I like having space to scroll with my mouse up and down, because what I found is when you scroll with your mouse scroll up and down over the image, that it adjusts the actual image there, and I don't like that. So it just causes a bit of a delay when I'm scrolling. So I've purposely set this not to 100%, so that if I want to scroll up and down, I just always do it on the sides of my note. All right, so that's width and height. That's pretty easy. What we're going to be doing though is setting the bounds, and then we're going to be setting the longitude and latitude. All right, and then we're going to be setting the min zoom, max zoom, default zoom, and zoom delta, and you'll understand why. And also we'll play with units, and even these markers. All right, these can be useful as well. So let's start. And what I'm going to do is, the reason why I've got an image link here is I wanted to right click on this and go show in System Explorer. That's going to flash up. All right, and here you can see I've got the pasted image. Now I've got GIMP installed. GIMP's an open source free image application. All right, very similar to PaintShop Pro. You could probably do it with PaintShop Pro if you got it. We're going to open with GIMP, which is the GNU image manipulation program. All right, and what I'm looking for in here is I want to come in here and I want to go image canvas size, or yeah, canvas size. Because what I'm looking for are these two numbers here. All right, you can see it's in pixels, and I need the width and the height. So I'm going to record those numbers. I'm going to try to do this over this side so we can get some of this going. All right, so you can see you've got the width and the height. So we're going to just do this here. We'll go width, then we'll go height. All right, and that's these two numbers here. So I've just recorded those in their raw format. Then things start to get a bit more complicated. What we actually need to do is go back into our map, and GIMP has this thing called the distance tool. Now, what I did there, by the way, is I held Control and I zoomed my mouse wheel in and out. That just does the zoom. And what I'm looking for is this here. All right, and what I want to do is use this little measure tool up here. And if I click from point 1 to point 2, I can see that that comes up at 146 pixels. I can do some further testing here. If I go from 0 to 500, that comes up at 730 pixels. So again, what I've done is I've recorded this. All right. I've basically put the pixels down the whole length, and then what I've done here is I've counted how many times this divides out in order to get to these sections on the map. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And if I do this as 730 divided by 5, then I get 146. So what I was doing, I was just validating effectively that the number of pixels from here to here is 146. All right, because obviously with pixels, it's very easy for me to sort of make a mistake and, you know, go one more or one less than what I need. So you can see here, like this one looks like 144. But by going from 0 to 500 and dividing it by 5 and then checking this manually, I'm just validating that I got my measurements right effectively. So anyway, we're going to go with 146. All right, and 146 in this regards would be 100 miles. So if we do this, 100 miles. So up here, I've basically got divide by 146. And you don't have to write divide by, you can do this math however you want, but here's the equation you're looking for. All right, you're taking the width in pixels, timesing by 1, dividing by whatever that is. All right, so in this case, 146 divided by 100. Now, this works with this map, guys. Like, you might need to do some fancy maths if you got different things going on in feet and meters and all that sort of stuff, but for this does work. So what this effectively gives me though is this is the width in pixels, this is the width in height, and then here I've basically divided these by 2, so I get half of that, and you'll see why in a minute. So if I come into here, alright, we can see bounds, and I've put in bounds, and you put the 0, 0 as the starting point, and the other corner is like the far right. Alright, so if you want to see what I'm talking about, we're setting a boundary for our map. Let's go one more. Whether I can here. So you can see over here, alright, that's 0, 0. Up here, this is max, max. Alright, so if we have a look here, we're setting the boundary of the window from one corner to the other corner, and basically teaching this how big it is. And if we have a look at this, you can see the formula that I've used is the number of pixels, alright, times by 1 divided by 146 divided by 100 equals this. And then what I've basically done is I've come in here and I've copied those numbers in. Alright, so 1815, this is actually the height that comes first, and then you put the width. Alright, that's just the boundary of the map. Once we've done that, what we need to do is then define where we want to start when we're looking at the map. And for this, what I want to be halfway. So if we come and have a look here, you can see I've got this one point that I've made halfway. So it's right in the middle of the map. And what that is that's these two numbers divided by 2. Alright, so we're just getting half of it. And then we come in here and we set that to be half of this. Alright, so longitude is half of that. That's your middle point, and that's like when you first start with your map and you're looking at the map and it loads up. That's where it's going to zoom in on, basically. That's your grab point. So quite important for that to set, because if you were to set that to 0, 0, then obviously you will start by looking at the bottom left corner of your map. So I think that's quite cool. Now down here, what I've done here, these are not necessary. These are just to help me get my head around how all of this works. And what I've done is I've created a point down in the bottom left hand corner. Alright, you can see I've got a point in the middle and I've got a point up in the top right. I have done this just for learning purposes, and the fact that the tutorial I used was basically indicating that I should do this. So I've got the bottom left hand corner is 0, 0. The top right corner is the maximum as per that formula that I've used before. And then the middle is half of that. Alright, so this sets it. And what that's really good at doing is it's basically helping me understand whether I've got this calculation right, because obviously if I've got this calculation right, then the points are going to go exactly where I expect them to go. So that's really good. Alright, so now that I've done that, we need to understand what unit the map is in, and we can see through here it's in miles. So what we can do is we can come in here and we can change this to miles. Now, something I learned through this process is that like miles, kilometers, feet, it doesn't matter. It's just a word. Alright, it's a string value. So you can see 0 scorpions. Like it doesn't mean anything other than telling you visually, like, you know, this is what it is that I'm measuring at. And if we're to press Alt or hold Alt and press, you can see that it measures now in scorpions. So, you know, you can decide on whatever it is that you want to do it in. In this case here, I need to go back to, what was it, miles. Alright, we just type miles. So that way, you know, the wording is set up correctly. Alright, let's wait for this to load. Okay, so now that we're here, we've set our boundary. Alright, we've made some pins so we can check to make sure that our boundary is correct. I'm going to hold shift and I'm going to click and drag a box over here, and that will zoom into that area. Just learned how to do that today. That's really quite handy, I think. As you can see, that sort of brings that right down. And now what we can do is we can hold Alt and click at the start, and that will start the measurement, and then we can come in here and you can see I've basically got it very close, and you know, depending on where you click, because the hand doesn't really have like a really dedicated sort of thing going on here, does it? But so you can see it basically lines up with the map and gives us the 500 miles. So if you've done this correctly, then you know this functionality should all of a sudden working, and you know that's really cool, because now if we want to measure the distance between two places, like let's say water deep, well, so I can do it. Come on, zoom in. There we go. Like if we want to measure between Waterford to Daggerford, we can now click in here. We can see it's 107 miles from Waterdeep through to Daggerford, and now you could refer to your travel table to see how long that would take for people to get there, whether they're on foot or whether they're on horses, for example. Like that's really cool. I like that. All right, so that's what that's all about. Now, another thing that really sort of drove me insane with this was how does the min zoom and the max zoom work? Because I was coming in here and going, all right, well, min zoom, I want that to be 1, max zoom, I want to be 100, because I want like as many zoom points as possible, and it just wasn't working. Like my maps were disappearing, and I was getting really frustrated trying to figure out what the hell, why doesn't this work the way I expect it to? So I got into the README files that come with Leaflet, not in Obsidian, just actually outside in the actual Leaflet community. And what I learned is the max zoom that generally is set is 18. So I've set my max zoom at 18. By default, 0 is sort of like, that's your full map. All right, and we'll go back into the tool and have a look at this. Default zoom, min zoom, max zoom, you need to set all these things. Zoom delta is how far it zooms in every time you click the zoom button. All right, so if you hit plus or negative, it'll go in 0.5. Min zoom is the minimum zoom, max zoom is the max zoom, and then default is how it starts. So if we have a look at this, because this I just did not get my head around. We've spoken to Javelin. He's pushed out a new release, so I do recommend you update this plugin before you start messing. Actually, I haven't updated mine, so let's just go through to do that process. Community plugins, check for updates, let it do its thing. It's probably going to be heaps because, you know, Javelin updates like 6 times a day. 11 plugins to update. Alright, we'll just let this do this thing quickly, and you'll see why in a minute. Here comes Leaflet, that's what we want. Alright, everything's been updated, maybe. Any more? Always update your modules before you start a video, Josh. Alright, there we go. Now when you hold your mouse over the reset zoom button, you can see the current zoom level. Alright, so we're currently at -1. And this is really handy because now you can actually practice and play with your zoom levels and see what it looks like. So I always like my map to start on my screen when I first come to it so I can see the whole map. I think that's always a cool way to do. So now I can come in here and go, alright, well that is -1.5. So now in here, what I can do is I can set my min zoom, all right, to -1.5 because I don't need to go any smaller than that, all right, but I do want to go larger than that. So I set my minimum to 1.5. Maximum's 18 because that's the default that's been put in the program. All right, but now what's my default going to be like? Do I want to start like this, or do I want to start in a bit further? Technically, I could actually set the longitude and latitude to be something different if I wanted as well. But But, you know, let's say that I just wanted this. I could go, all right, so minus 0.5 is kind of like where I'm sitting. So if I come in here and go 0.5 as my default zoom, we should now start there. There we go. And come in here, we can see that is minus 0.5. So, just so you guys understand this, because it's starting at 0. 0 is this. No. Actually, where did I go? I went minus 1. Let's just do it through here, it's easier. Default zoom, 0. So this is the raw zip map with no adjustments. You can't see the whole map because basically like it doesn't all fit on the screen. So from here we can zoom out. We can find what we want the map to look like when we're starting off. We can grab our current zoom rate, we can then go copy that into the tool or into the configuration, and then we can set our map. So I could set that as minus 0.1.5 so that this way, every single time that I open up this map, it's going to basically come to here. Now zoom delta, that's how far in it zooms in and out every time you click the button. So if you change that to 1, it will zoom further in than it will if you put 0.5. Or you go 0.25 if you want even more zoom levels. Alright, so that's that. And then your min zoom and your max zoom. So my recommendation is test it for your min zoom. Zoom out until you can see your whole map and you've got everything fitting on the screen. Find your min zoom from using this button here. Define that as your min zoom. And then I would be defining max zoom as 18 because that's obviously the maximum that the tool supports. And if you do all of this, well, I think your maps are going to start working or behaving a lot better. I'm certainly a lot happier with it. Now, one thing I would do before obviously I went live with this is get rid of these pins. So I can just take them out. And it should, there we go. And then once I've done that, then you can go ahead and you can right click and you can start adding your pins and linking things around. So, assuming you've set this up right, and I do recommend you do stop, like with your maps, you stop and you set these up correctly, because if you're working on something this size and scale, and as I said, you've spent 1,000 hours on this, you're going to be pretty upset with yourself when you've got to go back and rejiggle your pins if you do re-optimize the screen. And even if you're actually messing with these calculations up here, like setting the bounds and stuff, it will change the size of your map in the program, and therefore all of your pins will be sort of out of whack in different places. So just something to be very aware of. But honestly, now that I've spent the time, I understand it. I need to do a little bit of maths pretty much, you know, with every map I put in. I think it's going to be a lot easier. So let's just go through this again one more time just so it runs across it. I open up the image in GIMP. I find out the width and the height in pixels and I document that. I then use this formula here. So equals width times by 1 divided by 146, which we got from over here, divided by 100 with your brackets there, right? And that equals that. Same formula on here. It's just pointing to the height instead. All right. This here is derived from opening up the file inside of GIMP and using the distance tool. All right, and finding the distance between your first point and your second point. All right, I measured all 5 of them, but then divided by 5 to validate that I got that right, and then I bring that into here so the formula can reference that point. All right, now assuming you get this right, then this is what makes the measurements work, obviously. And just a reminder that, you know, miles needs to be updated as well. If you're in meters or kilometers or scorpions, you change the string of the unit type so that it matches, and it should just match. And again there, then I've halved that in order to get the middle of the map. Oops. All right. And that's all the numbers that I need in order to make this work. All right. So set your bounds as 0, 0 for the bottom left corner. Set your right using your calculation using the Excel spreadsheet. And obviously this is setting the max boundary of the map. So this would be the top right corner. Alright, height set to whatever you like. Width, I recommend something less than 100%, so you've got room to scroll up and down. Your latitude and your longitude is basically your halfway of your maximum here. Your min zoom is basically you figure that out using the actual zoom levels in the map, holding your mouse over the reset button to see what your zoom is and set it however you like. Your max zoom should be 18, or you could go less than 18. You could go like 16 if you feel like you don't need to zoom as far. And just on this, like 0 is no zoom, max zoom is heading towards the map, min zoom is heading away from the map. Alright, so if you're going minus 1.5, that allows you to step back away from the map. If you're going to max 18, that allows you to step 18 paces towards the map. Alright, let's just quickly have a look at that, what that looks like. If we go and hold shift to a click, no, I'm going to do a shift drag. This is a big map, it doesn't like it. Alright, so what are we at here? We're at, wow, 1.5. 2, right? So keep that in mind, right? Like I don't even need 18. Let's be honest. I could just go 2. Because there's not going to be many situations where I need to get closer than that. Alright, zoom. 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 And keep in mind that I've set this to 0.5 as my steps. That should be 1 now. Yep, that's 1. And if we go to 2, and 1 more. There, 2. So that's the furthest I can zoom in, and frankly, I don't need to go any further than that. So zoom level 18 would be completely wrong. So I was so off with what I was doing. Like I was setting this at 1 and 100, and it just didn't work. So anyway, play around with your zoom. Now that you can actually see the zoom levels, it will help you set the settings. Set your default zoom however you like, based on what you want it to look like when you first open up this note. Zoom delta is how far you want to zoom in and out every time you click zoom. Unit is just a string, which means you can type whatever you like here, and that will be written as the type of measurement that you're using. Scale I haven't played with, I'm just leaving it as 1, and dark mode I don't play with, I just leave that as false. So there you go, guys. Hopefully that is a little bit more helpful for you in how to properly set these things up. Maps are one of those things that you do want to take your time and set up properly. Understanding this is more complex than, like, for the Realmworks users where you just put in the map, but we didn't have measurement functionality in that tool, right? So while this is harder to set up, it's giving us a lot more functionality than what we had previously. If you haven't watched my other leaflet video, you can just right click, add your points of interest. You can even come in here and you can enable the draw tools, alright, so you can actually draw on your map as well, and then you can draw all sorts of things all over the place. So yeah, anyway, that's been Obsidian Leaflet, a bit more advanced than the first video I made on this, so hopefully that has been useful to you. Obviously, if you've got any questions, please do pop into either the Discord channel or into the Facebook group. If you are looking for technical support with any of his mods, then Javelin does have a Discord channel in the official Discord now, which is incredibly useful because the guy's just a saint. If you ask him for help, he's usually not far away, and any errors that he has found or issues he has found with his code, is very quick to provide an update to the tool and a resolution to the issue that you're having. So I do recommend that you jump along and have a chat to him. He's a lovely bloke, and huge thanks to Javelin. I will give the usual recommendation here that if you've got any coffees to give away, then Javelin is right now the guy that deserves your coffee. He is just fantastic. So keep him full of caffeine so that hopefully he keeps coding for us, because he is making Obsidian into one of the best campaign managers on the market, in my opinion, and it's free, so why not buy him a coffee? Anyway, guys, that has been Obsidian Leaflet, so I do hope you do enjoy the content. If you are enjoying it, please do like and subscribe using the links below. I'll add some links in the description for how to find things, like a copy of the formula perhaps, and just links to some of the various groups that you can track along to. Huge thanks to my patrons who are helping me sort of troubleshoot all of this stuff and test all this sort of stuff, so really big thanks to them. If there's anyone watching these videos who would like access to all of my templates and how-to guides, then Patreon is the place to find me. My patrons do have access to my templates, so they're enjoying that thoroughly, I do believe. Anyway guys, have a great day, and I will speak to you on the forums.